Hello everyone, B.O.B. here, and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. Now, right before the Bedrock update, I got a request to do a 3x3 piston door with keycard entry, and as you see, I got my keycard in hand here, which is just a piece of paper that I named keycard, and I'm going to drop that in my cleverly placed carpet, and it opens up the door. I pick up my keycard on the way through. Door automatically closes behind me, and now that I'm on the inside, I'm going to need a way to get back out. I have a button installed here. I can push that button, the door opens up, and again leaves us enough time to get through the door, then closes up automatically behind us. And of course, if I were to drop any other item than my key card into that spot, it won't actually open the door. It will give me the item back, but it doesn't actually do anything. Now, Bedrock has put quite a few speed bumps in this project. For example, I picked out a 3x3 piston door I have lights, started recording this tutorial, and that happened. Yeah, during the recording. The door broke. It broke during the recording. Back to the drawing boards. But eventually, I did find a 3x3 piston door that is 100% reliable on Bedrock, and the piston door itself was designed by a YouTuber by the name of CraftyMasterman. So I will be posting a link to his tutorial in the description down below. So please, when you're finished with this tutorial, go check out his video and drop him a very well-deserved like, because I tried a couple different designs to get one of these that is 100% reliable. Most of them have like a 90% success rate. I don't know. Bedrock. Now, the materials you're going to need for this build can be found in this chest right here. You're going to need at least 14 sticky pistons, 3 regular pistons, 6 observers, 2 droppers, and one of them could really be any container. I just chose to use a dropper there. We're going to need 7 hoppers, 6 comparators, 7 repeaters, 9 redstone torches, 22 redstone dust, give or take. You're going to need at least 1 redstone block, 1 redstone torch, 2 pieces of glass, 1 block of obsidian, 1 trap door. It could be any trap door you choose. 1 button, but I would recommend a wood button, as the pulse are a little bit longer with a wood button. And you're going to need your key card, basically, which is just going to be any item you choose, which you would custom name to key card, or whatever item you, or whatever name you choose as well, I suppose. Also, you're going to need a whole bunch of building blocks. Just for the door itself, I doubt you would even use a full stack of blocks, but of course you're going to need a whole bunch of blocks to decorate anyway, so just have a bunch of blocks with you. Now, the area for this build is 11 wide by 7 deep, which I have outlined in smooth stone here. And the bottom block of the item filter is going to be 4 blocks below the bottom block of your door frame. So, I mean, if you're going to want this at ground level, of course, you're going to want to dig down about 4 blocks. Probably not for the whole thing. You see, you got a little bit of wiggle room on the corners there, but for most of it, it's going to be about 4 blocks below the surface. Now, what we're going to do to get started here is we're going to come to the backside of our 11 by 7 space, which would be the inside of your building. We're going to come all the way to this left-hand corner. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks away from that corner, and then count 1, 2 blocks in from that, and we're going to place a solid block right there. And this is just going to be temporary. This is actually going to be 3 blocks below the very center of your door when it's open. So that should help you get this door positioned exactly where you want it. And what we want to do is double stack sticky pistons right on top of that block. And if we choose, we can now get rid of that block. We don't really need it anymore. But we want an observer to power this this bottom piston on this double piston extender. So to achieve that, we're going to pillar out 2 blocks off that right hand side. We're going to break that center block and then look at that outer block with our observer, and we're going to place that right there, and it should fire off that piston. That's exactly what we want. So we can break away that temporary block, and then on the other side of this sticky piston, we can go ahead and just place a solid block. Now, on top of that solid block, we want a repeater feeding into that top sticky piston. That repeater should be set to 3 ticks, so place it down and click it. 1, 2 times. Now over here on top of our observer, we want another repeater, but this one we want set to 4 ticks. So place it down and click it 1, 2, 3 times. Now we want that repeater feeding a signal from a solid block, so we can actually crouch and right on the edge of the repeater place that solid block, or you could pillar up from the face of the observer if you like, and you want the same thing on the other side. So let's crouch. We're going to place a solid block right there. It's to be powered by an observer, so we're going to kind of pillar out the same way we did off that sticky piston. Just go 1, 2, break away the center block, look at the outer block with our observer, and boom. And that should fire off that piston. That's just fine. Let's get that block out of there. Now let's come over here to the face of this observer. And that is where we're gonna place our trap door, basically right on the bottom of that block. And of course the piston should fire when you place that in there. And then right off the side of this solid block, we want a regular piston facing down, just like that. Now coming off the side of that regular piston, we want a redstone torch, and then up on top of that redstone torch we want a redstone lamp with another redstone torch on top of that, and then looking at that redstone lamp, we want another observer. So its little redstone bum is looking right at you, and then you want that little redstone bum feeding into a sticky piston just like that. Now let's go ahead and turn around, and on top of that observer right there, that is where we're going to place our 1 block of obsidian. And on the front of that block of obsidian, we want to place a sticky piston, so it's pointing right at you. And you want to come down here on the ground, and on the outside of that block of obsidian, you want to place a regular piston. So when it fires, it's going to fire right in the face of that observer. So let's come on back up here to our little door structure here, and right on top of that obsidian, we're going to want to triple stack 3 pistons. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and then right behind that triple stack of pistons, we're going to want a solid block right there on that upside down piston. And then come over here to the other side, we're going to triple stack pistons. This time we're going to do it on the head of this observer right here. So 1, 2, 3, and they should be all facing the inside. And then we're going to come over here above our redstone lamp, and just above that redstone torch on top of that lamp, we're going to place a solid block. Now on top of that solid block, you're going to want 1 dash of redstone dust, and then another dash of redstone dust on top of that sticky piston. And then you're going to want to look at the very edge, the inside edge of that dash of redstone dust, and you want to place your observer right there. So it's just kind of hanging out over that sticky piston, and its face is pointing right at that dash of redstone dust. Next, get our glass, and we're going to place 1 block of glass on top of each of these dashes of redstone dust, and then 2 more dashes of redstone dust on top of those 2 glass blocks. Now let's get our solid blocks and pillar in 2 more blocks from that upper glass block, and on top of those solid blocks coming from that redstone line, we want 2 repeaters, each set to 4 ticks. So go ahead and place them down and click them 3 times. So they're all the way open there. And we want them feeding into a double piston extender that is facing downwards. The easiest way to achieve that is just to pillar up. So let's go 1, 2, 3 blocks up, break away these bottom blocks, and we can double stack our pistons from below, sticky pistons from below. 1, 2, put those in. Now we can get rid of that top block because we don't need that in there. But coming off the other side of that upper sticky piston, we do want a redstone torch, and coming off the side of that redstone torch, we're going to basically place it right on its face. We want a downward facing regular piston. So coming off the other side of that downward facing regular piston, we want another redstone torch. Now come to the inside here and look at the head of that piston, and go ahead and place an observer right there, so it should fire off that lower sticky piston in your double piston extender here. And then come to the opposing side of the head of that piston, and we're going to just place a temporary block right there. We're going to get below that temporary block with a sticky piston. We're going to place it right on the end of that, and that should be facing down. We're going to break away that temporary block as we don't need that anymore. We will place 1 dash of redstone dust on top of that sticky piston, 1 dash of redstone dust on the solid block right below that sticky piston. Then you will need your one redstone block on the face of that sticky piston. The mechanics of a 3x3 piston door already in place. We just need the blocks for the door itself. Now for this I'm going to be using iron blocks, but you can use whatever block you choose. But what you want to do is on each side here you want to place a block on each of those sticky pistons. And then across the bottom here, place a block on the face of each of these sticky pistons. And then across the top, one on the middle piston, sticky piston, and then one block to each side of that. So you should have this shape right here. This is our 3x3 piston door in place. If I wanted to, I could give it a little test here by sending a redstone signal into this block right here, the one with the trap door on it. So I'm going to do that just by placing a lever. I'll throw that lever. You can see we got our closing sequence in place, and I'll break away that lever, and you can see we have our opening sequence in place. So next we got to wire in our keycard function. So to do that, we're going to come right up next to this double piston extender, and at this point we're going to be standing on where the outside of the building will be, and we're going to come one block away from this lower sticky piston. So we're going to have to pillar up off the ground. We'll place a temporary block one block away from that, and then we want a dropper facing up, and if we choose we can get rid of that temporary block from there. But right beside that on the ground, we do want a permanent block, and on top of that permanent block coming out of that dropper on the right hand side, we want a comparator. We want that comparator feeding into a solid block, so I'm going to just achieve that by pillaring up and then breaking away that bottom block. And then we want to come in between our dropper and our double piston extender here, and we're going to place a sticky piston right on the side of that solid block there, and then come over here beside your comparator and right on the face of that sticky piston. So you should see this little redstone bump peeking right between that comparator there. That's perfect. That's right where we want it. That's basically our auto item return system. Whatever we drop in the system, this dropper is going to return it to us. So we want to send our filter into that dropper. So I want you to come down here right on the front of that dropper, away from your door here. You're going to want a hopper feeding directly into that dropper, and then another hopper feeding into that hopper. And keep in mind, all of these hoppers have to be placed the way I tell you to place them. If you reroute them, it's going to mess up the system. But come over here to the right hand side, and into the side of that first hopper you placed, you want to crouch and place another hopper. So that one's right beside your comparator there, but you know, facing the other direction. Then come back here to the front of the contraption here, and feeding into that hopper, you want another hopper. So that one's feeding into here, this one's feeding into here. Now come up here on top of this little 2x2 hopper platform, and in the corner right beside your dropper, right on top of that corner hopper, you want to place a solid block. And then off the front of the machine here, you want another hopper feeding into that solid block. It must feed in to that, not into the hopper below, but into the hopper below your feet here. We do want another hopper feeding directly down into that, and on top of that directly downward feeding hopper, we want our second dropper. Now this is the dropper that is actually variable. You could put in like a barrel or a chest or whatever, anything you could cover up with carpet. Doesn't really matter. The hopper is going to take items out of it as soon as they get put in anyways. And so we want this top hopper to be feeding directly into that dropper. So we'll be placing our item filter in basically this hopper here. Any item that can pass through the filter will. Any item that cannot is going to bypass and then be sent right back into our auto return system. We are going to build the very most basic of item elevators. You see we have our dropper facing up right there. We're going to build it right on top of that. We need a 3x3 platform. So just from this center block, or this solid block, I'm sorry, that we already have placed, we're going to place one block. That's actually going to be the center block. And then another block to the side of that. And then we want to place 1, 2, 3 blocks on the side of that strip. And then another 1, 2, 3 blocks on this side. Now we're going to put another another layer right on top of that, but this layer will be your visible floor, or at least what you don't cover up with carpet. Uh, I'm gonna build mine out of smooth quartz. Of course, you could build yours out of whatever material you choose, but we do want a solid 3 by 3 by 2 platform right above that dropper, so when items get fed into that dropper, they will automatically come back up through that center block. We're going to build right off this bottom hopper here on the left hand side. Well, we could just stack up off the ground below that because we need a block down there as well, so go 1, 2 right up beside that hopper, and then come 1 block out from that. And then on the ground right beside that, we're going to place another solid block. Now let's come up on top of this structure we just built, and we're going to draw a comparator signal from that center hopper right there that's feeding into that solid block. So let's jump up and place a comparator right beneath our feet and bring a line of redstone dust right down to the end of that structure you just built. Now come down here to beside that bottom block, and in this little gap we left down here, we're going to place a repeater, pulling a signal from this solid block and putting it into this solid block. And on the opposing side of that solid block, so it'll be right below this hopper here, we're going to have a redstone torch. Now this is the circuitry for the item filter itself, but now we need to get the filter put in place, and we're going to put that in this center hopper here, the one that the comparator is pulling a signal out of. And this is where our key cards are going to come into play. Now there's a couple of different ways you could lay this out. You could just place one of these key cards in each of these slots on the right, then put all the rest in this key card, this slot on the left, and one should drop out and fall into the hopper below and get locked in there. But just in case you wanted to, say, use a different item for your key card, like like you wanted to be like Mumbo Jumbo and use an iron door, you'd want to put your junk items or your other filter items. You'd want to stack them all in these slots on the right. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then these last 2 items, place in that first slot. One will drop into the hopper below and lock in there, and then whatever this item is the item that will be allowed to pass through this filter. And of course all of these need to be a custom named item. No real way to test it until we wire it up to the door. I mean, we could kind of watch the redstone torch to see if it turns on and off, but you know, a moving door is much more visible. So let's just go ahead and wire that up. We're going to come to the inside of our little contraption here, and you see that little redstone torch right there coming off of our item filter? We're going to pull a signal from that. So let's stick a dash of redstone dust right beside that, and it should turn on. And right beside that dash of redstone dust, we want a solid block and another dash of redstone dust on top of that solid block. Now on the other side of that solid block, we want a redstone torch, and that should turn off as soon as you put it in place. And coming from that redstone torch, we want a repeater on the ground. We want that repeater set to at least 3 ticks. You could set that to 4 if you want, but don't go any lower than 3. Then 1 block away from that repeater, have a solid block, and then bring a redstone line from that repeater right up on top of that solid block. Now let's come and stand right on top of that first dash of redstone dust, and we're going to have a comparator feeding into another comparator, feeding into redstone dust, dash of redstone dust to the side of that, then turn around and have another comparator feeding into that solid block. And what we've just created here is just a pulse extender, basically. Now from the corner of this pulse extender, we need a repeater, so we're going to place that right here coming towards the back of the machine. Now we should be nearing we should be technically inside of your building at this point, and we are going to have this repeater feeding into a solid block with a redstone torch on top. Now all we got to do is bring the signal from that redstone torch and feed it into that block right there. So the simplest way. Just bridge across 1, 2, 3, and then right beside that last block, 1, 2, have a little step, and we don't even need a repeater or anything. We can feed the signal right in, and your door should close as soon as you wire it up. So let me just throw, oops, or not that. Drop a sticky piston into this hopper. Sticky piston, yeah, it pops up through the center of the platform here, but it does not open the door. But if I drop my keycard in here, the door opens up. It gives us ample time to get through, and will close automatically behind us. Now we just need to put in our exiting button. This button could be placed anywhere you want it. I just tried to keep it close to the machine, but I'll point out the key things you'll need to know if you choose to move the button around. But what I'm gonna do is just build off of this center block here we got above our redstone torch. I'm gonna just come 1, 2 blocks over, and then come 1 block out from that. And this is where I'm going to be placing my button. And of course, like I said, this is adjustable. You can move it around. I'm gonna place my button right on the face of that block. And then on the back of that block, we want a redstone torch. And then we're gonna build a little redstone ladder. So what we want to do is double stack blocks off the bottom of that floating block, and then 1 block out. Then place a dash of redstone dust on top of that. We can get rid of these blocks here. We don't need those. And then on the outside of this floating block here, we want another redstone torch. And of course that torch is going to turn off because that block is powered by the redstone dust above. And we're going to pillar down again just like we did above. So let's come on out. And here we're close enough to our input that we don't really need another torch because it's turned off. We want our lower signal to be turned off. So from here, you just run a dash of redstone dust, feed that right down into our pulse extender that opens our door. So this button works the same way as our item filter in front. We hit that button, opens up the door, gives us plenty of time to get through, and closes behind us. If you do choose to remove the button. One thing is, like I said before, the lowest torch must be turned off. You don't want the signal feeding into your pulse extender to be on, because then your door would be open. So of course we don't want that. Yeah, lowest signal must be turned off. If the redstone source, such as this torch, is further away than the 4 or 5 blocks I have from the pulse extender, you might want to add in a repeater, because these pulse extenders are actually add a signal decay, and if the signal going into the extender is weak, the decay won't last as long, therefore the pulse extension won't last as long. And then last thing you need to know is never place a block on top of a torch inside of one of these redstone ladders. That's going to cause you problems. But that's it. That is our 3x3 piston door with ID card access, and that was actually a lot more painless than I thought it was going to be. As always, I'm going to leave the decorations up to you. I'll give you another look at what I did. If you need any ideas or inspirations, I'm not the best at the build thing. I do all right, but I'm more redstone, of course. And that, my friends, completes today's tutorial, and I'd like to apologize for the choppiness of this one. I was experiencing a lot of audio issues and things like that. I don't know. It seems like Bedrock's even having an effect on the capture feature on the PlayStation, and that's a bit strange. But if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button, and if you're interested in seeing more from me, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching and wish you all a wonderful day.